Chapter 8 of Categories. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by Jeffrey Edwards. Categories by Aristotle. Translated by Octavius Freer Owen. Chapter 8 of the Qualii and of Quality. By quality, I mean that, according to which certain things are said to be what they are. Quality, however, is among those things which are predicated multifariously. Hence, one species of quality is called "habit" and "disposition." But habit differs from disposition in that it is a thing more lasting and stable. Of this kind, too, are both the sciences and the virtues. For science appears to rank among those things which continue more stable, and are hardly removed, even when science is but moderately attained, unless some great change should occur from disease, or from something of the sort. So also virtue, as justice, temperance, and so forth, does not appear capable of being moved or changed with facility. But those are termed dispositions which are easily moved and quickly changed, as heat, cold, disease, health, and such things. Or a man is disposed after a manner according to these, but is rapidly changed, from hot becoming cold, and from health passing to disease. And in like manner as to other things, unless some one of these qualities has, from length of time, become natural, immovable, or at least difficult to be moved, in which case we may term it a habit. But it is evident that those ought to be called habits which are more lasting, and are with greater difficulty removed. For those persons who do not very much retain the dogmas of science, but are easily moved, are said not to possess a scientific habit, although they are in some manner disposed as to science, either worse or better, so that habit differs from disposition in the one being easily removed, but the former is more lasting, and less easily removed. Habits are dispositions also, but dispositions not necessarily habits. For those who have habits are also, after a manner, disposed according to them, but those who are disposed are not altogether possessed of the habit. Another kind of quality is, that according to which we say that men are prone to pugilism, or to the course, or to health, or to disease, in short, whatever things are spoken of according to natural power, or weakness. For each of these is not denominated from being disposed after a certain manner, but from having a natural power or inability of doing something easily, or of not suffering. Thus men are called pugilistic, or fitted for the course, not from being disposed after a certain manner, but from possessing a natural power of doing something easily. Again, they are said to be healthy, from possessing a natural power of not suffering easily from accidents, but to be diseased, from possessing a natural incapacity to resist suffering easily from accidents. Similarly to these, do hard and soft subsist, for that is called hard, which possesses the power of not being easily divided, but soft, that which has an impotence as to the same thing. The third kind of quality consists of passive qualities and passions, and such are sweetness, bitterness, sourness, and all their affinities, besides warmth, and coldness, and whiteness, and blackness. Now, that these are qualities, is evident from their recipients being called from them, qualia. As honey from receiving sweetness is said to be sweet, and the body white from receiving whiteness. In like manner in other things. They are called passive qualities, not from the recipients of the quality suffering anything, for neither is honey said to be sweet from suffering anything, nor anything else of such a kind. In like manner to these are heat and cold called passive qualities, not from the recipients themselves suffering anything, but because each of the above mentioned qualities produces passion in the senses, they are denominated passive qualities. For as sweetness produces a certain passion in the taste, and warmth in the touch, so also do the rest. Whiteness and blackness and other colours are, on the contrary, not called passive qualities, in the same manner with the above mentioned, but from themselves being produced from passion, for that many changes of colours spring from passion is evident, since when a man blushes he becomes red, and when frightened pale, and so every thing of this sort. Whence also, if a man naturally suffers a passion of this nature, he will probably have a similar colour, since the disposition which is now produced about the body when he blushes, may also be produced in the natural constitution, so as that a similar colour should naturally arise. Whatever such symptoms then originate from certain passions difficult to be removed, and permanent, are called passive qualities. For whether in the natural constitution, paleness, or blackness be produced, they are called qualities, for according to them we are called quales, or whether through long disease, or heat, or any such thing, paleness or blackness happens, neither are easily removed, or even remain through life, these are called qualities. For in like manner we are called quales in respect of them. Notwithstanding, such as are produced from things easily dissolved, and quickly restored, are called passions, and not qualities. For men are not called quales in respect of them, since neither is he who blushes in consequence of being ashamed called red, nor he who turns pale from fear called pale. They are rather said to have suffered something, so that such things are called passions, but not qualities. Like these also are passive qualities, and passions denominated in the soul. For such things as supervene immediately upon birth from certain passions difficult of removal are called qualities, as insanity, anger, and such things. For men according to these are said to be quales, that is, wrathful and insane. So also as many other mutations as are not natural, but arise from certain other symptoms, and are with difficulty removed, or even altogether immovable, such are qualities, for men are called quales in respect of them. Those which, on the other hand, arise from things easily and rapidly restored, are called passions, as for instance, where one being vexed becomes more wrathful, for he is not called wrathful who is more wrathful in a passion of this kind, but rather he is said to have suffered something, whence such things are called passions, but not qualities. The fourth kind of quality is figure, and the form, which is about everything, besides rectitude and curvature, and whatever is like them, for according to each of these, a thing is called quale. Thus a triangle, or a square, is said to be a thing of a certain quality, also a straight line, or a curve, and everything is said to be quale according to form. The rare and the dense, the rough and the smooth, may appear to signify a certain quality, but probably these are foreign from the division of quality, as each appears rather to denote a certain position of parts. For a thing is said to be dense from having its parts near each other, but rare from their being distant from each other, and smooth from its parts lying in some respect in a right line, but rough, from this part rising, and the other falling. There may perhaps appear to be some other mode of quality, but those we have enumerated are most commonly called so. The above named therefore are qualities, but qualia are things denominated paronymously according to them, or in some other manner from them. Most indeed, and nearly all of them, are called paronymously, as a white man, from whiteness, a grammarian, from grammar, a just man, from justice, and similarly of the rest. Still in some, from no names having been given to the qualities, it is impossible that they should be called paronymously from them. For instance, a racer, or pugilist, so called from natural power, is paronymously denominated from no quality, since names are not given to those powers, after which these men are called quales, as they are given to sciences, according to which men are said to be pugilists, or wrestlers from disposition, for there is said to be a pugilistic and palestric science, from which those disposed to them are paronymously denominated quales. Sometimes, however, the name being assigned, that which is called quali, according to it, is not denominated paronymously, as from virtue. A man is called worthy, for he is called worthy from possessing virtue, but not paronymously from virtue. This, however, does not often happen. Wherefore those things are called qualia, which are paronymously denominated from the above mentioned qualities, or which are in some other manner termed from them. In quality there is also contrariety, as justice is contrary to injustice, and whiteness to blackness, and the like. Also those things which subsist according to them are termed qualia, as the unjust to the just, and the white to the black. This, however, does not happen in all cases, for to the yellow, or the pale, or such like colours, though they are qualities, there is no contrary. Besides, if one contrary be a quality, the other will also be a quality, and this is evident to any one considering the other categories. For instance, if justice be contrary to injustice, and justice be a quality, then injustice will also be a quality, for none of the other categories accords with injustice, neither quantity, nor relation, nor where, nor in short anything of the kind, except quality, and the like also happens as to quality in the other contraries. Qualia also admit the more and the less, as one thing is said to be more or less white than another, and one more and less just than another. The same thing also itself admits accession, for what is white can become more white. This, however, does not happen with all, but with most things, for some one may doubt whether justice can be said to be more or less justice, and so also in other dispositions, since some doubt about such, and assert that justice cannot altogether be called more and less than justice, nor health than health, but they say that one man has less health than another, and one person less justice than another, and so also of the grammatical and other dispositions. Still the things which are denominated according to these do without question admit the more and the less. For one man is said to be more grammatical than another, and more healthy, and more just, and similarly in other things. Triangle and square appear nevertheless incapable of the more, as also every other figure, since those things which receive the definition of a triangle and of a circle are all alike triangles or circles, but of things which do not receive the same definition, none can be said to be more such than another, as a square is not more a circle than an oblong, for neither of them admits the definition of the circle. In a word, unless both receive the definition of the thing propounded, one cannot be said to be more so and so than another, wherefore all qualities do not admit the more and the less. Of the above mentioned particulars then, no one is peculiar to quality, but things are said to be similar and dissimilar in respect of qualities alone. For one thing is not like another in respect of anything else, than so far as it is quale, so that it will be peculiar to quality, that the like and the unlike should be termed so in respect of it. Yet we need not be disturbed, lest any one should say that, proposing to speak of quality, we co-enumerate many things which are relatives. For we said that habits and dispositions are among the number of relatives, and nearly in all such things the genera are called relatives, but not one of the singulars. Science, for example, although it is a genus, is said to be what it is with respect to something else, for it is said to be the science of a certain thing, but of singulars not one is said to be what it is, with reference to something else, as neither grammar is said to be the grammar of something, nor music the music of something, but even perhaps these are called relatives according to genus, as grammar is said to be the science of something, not the grammar of something, and music the science of something, not the music of something, so that singulars are not of the number of relatives. Still, we are called quales from singulars, for these we possess, as we are called scientific from possessing certain singular sciences, so that these may be singular qualities, according to which we are sometimes denominated quales, but they are not relatives. Besides, if the same thing should happen to be both a particular quality and a relative, there is no absurdity in its enumeration under both genera. Chapter 9. Of action, passion, and the other categories of position, when, where, and possession. Action and passion admit contrariety, and the more and the less. For to make warm is contrary to making cold, to be warm contrary to the being cold, to be pleased contrary to being grieved, so that they admit contrariety. They are also capable of the more and the less, for it is possible to heat more and less, to be heated more and less, and to be grieved more and less. Wherefore to act and to suffer admit the more and less, and so much may be said of these. But we have spoken of the being situated in our treatment of relatives, to the effect that it is paronymously denominated from positions, as regards the other categories, when, where, and to have, nothing else is said of them than what was mentioned at first, because they are evident, e.g. that to have signifies to be shod, to be armed, where, as in the Lyceum, in the Forum, and the rest which are spoken of these. Of the proposed genera therefore sufficient has been stated. Chapter 10. Of opposites. We must now speak of opposites, in how many ways opposition takes place. One thing then is said to be opposed to another in 4 ways, either as relative, or as contrary, or as privation and habit, or as affirmation and negation. Thus speaking summarily, each thing of this kind is opposed relatively as the double to the half, contrarily as evil to good, privately and habitually as blindness and sight, affirmatively and negatively as he sits, he does not sit. Whatever things then are relatively opposed are said to be what they are with reference to opposites, or are in some manner referred to them, as the double of the half is said to be what it is with reference to something else, for it is said to be the double of something, and knowledge is opposed relatively to the object of knowledge, and is said to be what it is in reference to what may be known, and what may be known is said to be what it is in reference to an opposite, namely knowledge. For the object of knowledge is said to be so, to something, namely to knowledge. Things therefore relatively opposed are said to be what they are with reference to opposites, or in whatever manner they are referable to each other. But those which are opposed as contraries are by no means said to be what they are with reference to each other, but are said to be contrary to each other. For neither is good said to be the good of evil, but the contrary of evil, nor is white denominated the white of black, but its contrary, so that these oppositions differ from each other. Such contraries, however, as are of that kind, that one of them must necessarily be in those things in which it can naturally be, or of which it is predicated, these have nothing intermediate. But in the case of those, in which it is not necessary that one should be inherent, there is something intermediate. For instance, health and disease may naturally subsist in the body of an animal, and it is necessary that one should be therein, either disease or health. The odd and even are also predicated of number, and one of the two, either the odd or the even, must necessarily be in number. Yet there is nothing intermediate between these, neither between disease and health, nor between the odd and the even. Those contraries again have something intermediate, in which one of them need not be inherent, as black and white are naturally in body, but it is not necessary that one of these should be inherent in body, for every body is not white or black. Vileness also and worth are predicated of man, and of many others, yet one of these need not be in those things of which it is predicated, for not all things are either vile or worthy, at least there is something intermediate, as between white and black, there is dark brown, and pale, and many other colours, but between vileness and worth, that is intermediate which is neither vile nor worthy. In some instances the intermediates have names, thus the dark brown, and the pale, and such colours are media between white and black, but in other cases it is not easy to assign a name to the intermediate, but the latter is defined by the negation of either extreme, as for example, whatever is neither good nor bad, nor just nor unjust. Privation, however, and habit are predicated of something identical, as sight and blindness of the eye, and universally, in whatever the habit is naturally adapted to be produced, of such is either predicated. We say then that each of the things capable of receiving habit is deprived of it, when it is not in that, wherein it might naturally be, and when it is adapted naturally to possess it. Thus we say that a man is toothless, not because he has no teeth, and blind, not because he has no sight, but because he has them not, when he might naturally have them. For some persons from their birth have neither sight nor teeth, yet they are neither called toothless nor blind. To be deprived of, and to possess habit, then, are not privation and habit, for the sight is habit, but the privation is blindness. But to possess sight is not sight, nor to be blind, blindness. For blindness is a certain privation, but the being blind is to be deprived, and is not privation. For if blindness were the same as being blind, both might be predicated of the same person. But a man is said to be blind, yet he is never called blindness. To be deprived also, and to possess habit, appear to be similarly opposed, as privation and habit, since the mode of opposition is the same. For as blindness is opposed to sight, so likewise is the being blind opposed to the possession of sight. Neither is that which falls under affirmation and negation, affirmation and negation. For affirmation is an affirmative sentence, and negation a negative sentence, but nothing which falls under affirmation and negation is a sentence, (but a thing). Still these are said to be mutually opposed, as affirmation and negation, since in them the mode of opposition is the same. For as affirmation is sometimes opposed to negation, for example, he sits, to he does not sit, so that thing which is under each is opposed, as sitting to not sitting. But that privation and habit are not opposed as relatives is evident, since what a thing is not asserted of its opposite. For sight is not the sight of blindness, nor in any other way spoken in reference to it. So also blindness cannot be called the blindness of sight. But blindness indeed is said to be the privation of sight, not the blindness of sight. Moreover, all relatives are referred to reciprocals, so that if blindness were relative, it would not reciprocate with that to which it is referred. But it does not reciprocate, for sight is not said to be the sight of blindness. From these things also it is manifest that those which are predicated according to privation and habit are not contrarily opposed. For of contraries, which have no intermediate, one must always necessarily be inherent, wherein it is naturally adapted to be inherent, or of which it is predicated. But between these there is no intermediate thing, wherein it was necessary that the one should be in what was capable of receiving it, as in the case of disease and health, in odd and the even number. Of those, however, between which there is an intermediate, it is never necessary that one should be inherent in every thing. For neither is it necessary that everything capable of receiving it should be white or black, or hot or cold, since there is no prevention to an intermediate being between them. Again, of these also there was a certain medium, of which it was not requisite that one should be in its recipient, unless where one is naturally inherent, as in fire to be hot, and in snow to be white. Still in these one must of necessity be definitely inherent, and not in whatever way it may happen. For neither does it happen that fire is cold, nor that snow is black, wherefore it is not necessary that one of them should be in everything capable of receiving it, but only in those wherein the one is naturally inherent, and in these, that which is definitely and not casually one. In privation, however, and habit, neither of the above mentioned particulars is true, since it is not always necessary that one should be inherent in what is capable of receiving it, as what is not yet naturally adapted to have sight, is neither said to be blind, nor to have sight. Wherefore these things will not be of such contraries, as have nothing intermediate. But neither, on the other hand, will they be amongst those which have something intermediate, since it is necessary that at some time one of them should be inherent in everything capable of receiving it. Thus when a man is naturally fitted to have sight, then he will be said to be blind, or to have sight, and one of these, not definitely, but whichever may happen, since he need not necessarily be blind, nor see, but either as it may happen. In respect nevertheless of contraries, which have an intermediate, it is by no means necessary that one should be inherent in everything, but in some things, and in these one of them definitely, and neither casually, so that things which are opposed according to privation and habit, are evidently not in either of these ways opposed, as contraries. Again, in contraries, when the recipient exists, a change into each other may happen, unless one is naturally inherent in something, as for instance, in fire to be hot. It is possible also for the healthy to be sick, and the white to become black, cold to become hot, and the hot to become cold. From good it is possible to become bad, and from bad, good. For he who is depraved, being led to better pursuits and discourses, advances, though but a little, to be better. And if he once makes an advancement ever so little, he will evidently become either altogether changed, or have made a very great proficiency, since he ever becomes more disposed to virtue, even if he has obtained the smallest increase from the beginning. Wherefore he will probably acquire greater increase, and this perpetually occurring, he will at last be transformed entirely to a contrary habit, unless he be prevented by time. But in privation and habit it is impossible for a mutual change to occur, since it may take place from habit to privation, but from privation to habit it is impossible, as neither can he who has become blind again see, the bald again have hair, nor has the toothless ever yet again got teeth. Whatever things are opposed, as affirmation and negation, are evidently opposed according to none of the above mentioned modes, since in these alone it is always necessary that one should be true, but the other false, as neither is it always necessary in contraries that one should be true, but the other false, nor in relatives, nor in habit and privation. For instance, health and disease are contrary, yet neither of them is either true or false. So also the double and the half are relatively opposed, and neither of them is either true or false, nor in things which are predicated, as to privation and habit, as sight and blindness. In short, nothing predicated without any conjunction is either true or false, and all the above named are predicated without conjunction, not but that a thing of this kind may appear to happen in contraries, which are predicated conjunctively. For Socrates is well is opposed to Socrates is sick. Yet neither in these is it always necessary that one should be true and the other false. For while Socrates lives, one will be true and the other false, but when he is not alive, both will be false, since neither is it true that Socrates is sick, nor that he is well, when he is not in existence at all. In privation and habit, then, when the subject is non-existent, neither is true, but when the subject exists, the one is not always true, nor the other false. Socrates sees is opposed to Socrates is blind, as privation and habit, and whilst he exists, one need not be true or false, for when he is not naturally fitted to possess them, both are false, but when Socrates does not exist at all, both will thus be false, that he sees and that he is blind. In affirmation and negation, always, if Socrates be or be not, one will always be false, and the other true. For it is evident with respect to these two, Socrates is sick, and Socrates is not sick, that when he exists, one of them is true, and the other false, and in like manner when he does not exist, for in the latter case, that he is ill is false, but that he is not ill is true. so that in those things alone which are affirmatively and negatively opposed, will it be the peculiarity that one of them is either true or false. Chapter 11. Opposites continued, especially as to the contrariety between the evil and the good. Evil is of necessity opposed to good, and this is evident from an induction of singulars, as disease to health, and cowardice to courage, and similarly of the rest. But to evil at one time good is contrary, and at another evil, for to indigence, being an evil, excess is contrary, which is also an evil. In like manner, mediocrity, which is a good, is opposed to each of them. A man may perceive this in respect of a few instances, but in the majority the contrary to evil is always good. Again, of contraries it is not required, if one is, that the remainder should be. For when every man is well, there will indeed be health, and not disease, and so also when all things are white, there will be whiteness, but not blackness. Besides, if Socrates is well, be the contrary of Socrates is ill, and both cannot possibly be inherent in the same subject, it follows that when one of the contraries exists, the other cannot possibly exist. For Socrates is well, existing, Socrates is ill, cannot exist. Contraries, however, evidently are, by their nature, adapted to subsist about the same thing, either in species or genus, since disease and health naturally subsist in the body of an animal, but whiteness and blackness simply in body, and justice and injustice in the soul of man. Notwithstanding, it is requisite that all contraries be either in the same genus, or in contrary genera, or be genera themselves. For white and black are in the same genus, as colour is the genus of them, but justice and injustice in contrary genera. For virtue is the genus of one, but vice of the other. Lastly, good and bad are not in a genus, but are themselves the genera of certain things. Chapter 12. Of Priority. A thing is said to be prior to another in 4 respects. First, and most properly, in respect of time, according to which, one is said to be older and more ancient than another, since it is called older and more ancient because the time is longer. Next, when it does not reciprocate, according to the consequence of existence. Thus one is prior to 2. For 2 existing, it follows directly that 1 exists. But when 1 is, it is not necessary that 2 should be. Hence the consequence of the remainder's existence does not reciprocate from the existence of the one. But such a thing appears to be prior, from which the consequence of existence does not reciprocate. Thirdly, the prior is that predicated according to a certain order, as in the instance of sciences and discourses. For in demonstrative sciences, the prior and the posterior subsist in order, since the elements are prior in order to the diagrams, and in grammar, letters are before syllables. So also of discourses, as the proem is prior in order to the narration. Moreover, besides what we have mentioned, the better and more excellent appear to be prior by nature. The common people are accustomed to say that those whom they chiefly honour and especially regard are prior in their esteem. But this is nearly the most foreign of all the modes, wherefore such are nearly the modes of priority, which have been enumerated. Besides the above mentioned, there may yet appear to be another mode of the prior, as of things reciprocating according to the consequence of existence. That which in any respect is the cause of the existence of the one, may justly be said to be by nature prior, and that there are certain things of this kind is manifest. For that man exists, reciprocates according to the consequence of existence, with the true sentence respecting him, since if man is, the sentence is true, by which we say, that man is, and it reciprocates, since if the sentence be true, by which we say that man is, then man is. Notwithstanding, a true sentence is by no means the cause of a thing's existence, but in some way the thing appears the cause of the sentence being true. For in consequence of a thing existing or not existing is a sentence said to be true or false. Wherefore one thing may be called prior to another, according to 5 modes. Chapter 13. Of Things Simultaneous. Things are called simultaneous simply and most properly whose generation occurs at the same time, for neither is prior or posterior. These therefore are said to be simultaneous as to time, but by nature those are simultaneous which reciprocate according to the consequence of existence, although one is by no means the cause of the existence of the other, as in the double and the half, for these reciprocate. Thus the double existing, the half also exists, and the half existing, the double exists, but neither is the cause of existence to the other. Those also, which being derived from the same genus, are by division mutually opposed, are said to be naturally simultaneous, but they are said to have a division opposite to each other, which subsist according to the same division. Thus the winged is opposed to pedestrian and aquatic, as these being derived from the same genus are by division mutually opposed, for animal is divided into these, viz. Into the winged, the pedestrian, and aquatic, and none of these is prior or posterior, but things of this kind appear naturally simultaneous. Each of these again may be divided into species, for instance the winged, the pedestrian, and the aquatic. Wherefore those will be naturally simultaneous which, derived from the same genus, subsist according to the same division. But genera are always prior to species, since they do not reciprocate according to the consequence of existence. For the aquatic existing, animal exists, but though animal exists, it is not necessary that the aquatic should. Hence those are called naturally simultaneous, which indeed reciprocate, according to the consequence of existence, but the one is by no means the cause of existence to the other, which is also the case with things that, derived from the same genus, have by division a mutual opposition. Those however are simply simultaneous whose generation is at the same time. Chapter 14. Of Motion. Of motion there are 6 species: generation, corruption, increase, diminution, alteration, and change of place. The other motions then evidently differ from each other, for neither is generation, corruption, nor increase, diminution, nor alteration, change of place, and so of the rest. In the case of alteration, however, there is some doubt whether it be not sometimes necessary that what is altered be so in respect of some one of the other motions, but this is not true, for it happens that we are altered as to nearly all the passions, or at least the greater part of them, without any participation of the other motions, for it is not necessary that what is passively moved should be either increased or diminished. Wherefore alteration will differ from the other motions, since if it were the same, it would be necessary that what is altered be forthwith increased or diminished, or follow some of the other motions, but this is not necessary. Similarly also, what is increased or moved with any other motion ought to be altered (in quality), but some things are increased which are not so altered, as a square is increased when a gnomon is placed about it, but it has not become altered (in quality), and in like manner with other things of this kind, so that these motions will differ from each other. Nevertheless, simply, rest is contrary to motion, the several rests to the several motions, corruption to generation, diminution to increase, rest in place to change in place, but change to a contrary place seems especially opposed, as ascent to descent, downwards to upwards. Still it is not easy to define the contrary to the remainder of these specified motions, but it seems to have no contrary, unless some one should oppose to this rest according to quality, or change of quality into its contrary, just as in change of place, rest according to place, or change to a contrary place. For alteration is the mutation of quality, so that to motion according to quality will rest according to quality, or change to the contrary of the quality be opposed. Thus becoming white is opposed to becoming black, since a change in quality occurs, there being an alteration of quality into contraries. Chapter 15. Of the verb to have. To have is predicated in many modes, either as habit and disposition, or some other quality. For we are said to have knowledge and virtue, or as to quantity, as the size which any one has, thus he is said to have the size of 3 or 4 cubits, or as things about the body, as a garment, or a tunic, or as in a part, as a ring in the hand, or as a part, as the hand or the foot, or as in a vessel, as a bushel has wheat, or a flagon wine, for the flagon is said to have the wine, and the bushel the wheat. All these therefore are said to have, as in a vessel, or as a possession, for we are said to have a house or land. A man is also said to have a wife, and the wife a husband, but the mode now mentioned of to have seems the most foreign, for we mean nothing else by having a wife than that she cohabits with a man. There may perhaps appear to be some other modes of having, but those usually mentioned have nearly all been enumerated. End of Categories by Aristotle. Translated by Octavius Freer Owen. Recording in memory of Mitchell Edwards.